Dawn of War is a legendary RTS series set in the Warhammer 40k universe, developed by Relic Entertainment. The first game, Dawn of War, was released in 2004. It had 3 expansions: Winter Assault in 2005, Dark Crusade in 2006, and Soulstorm in 2008, and that was followed by Dawn of War 2 in 2009, and 2 expansions, Chaos Rising in 2010, Retribution in 2011, and then finally the third game, Dawn of War 3, was released in 2017, but this game received no expansions, no DLC, and support and development for the game was terminated only 10 months later. And it seems to have effectively killed off the franchise. There's been no news of any Dawn of War 4, no news of really anything for the series. Now, why did Dawn of War 3 kill the series? Well, until I decided to make this video, I'd never actually played Dawn of War 3. When I heard about how the game played and all the previews, I just was not interested at all in what direction the game was going. And I think a lot of people probably thought the same. So to see how the game actually plays, I decided to play it, starting with the campaign, and I played a little bit of multiplayer afterwards. And one of the main things I remember about Dawn of War 3 is its announcement trailer, and I think the announcement trailer was awesome. It's very moody, atmospheric, shows off that there's 3 races in the game. Unfortunately, only 3, which is a negative towards the game because the other 2 games launched with 4 races, and then the expansions added in more and more races. But it does also show off the larger units you get in Dawn of War 3, which aren't in the others. You know, you get the Imperial Knights and you can see the Wraith Knight as well. So into the campaign, and it is a singular campaign where you play as all 3 races. And most of the time, once you've finished a mission, the next mission will be with a different race. Now, I'm not a fan of this at all. I do like separate campaigns because I like to choose who I'm playing as, because if I'm playing as the Space Marines, for example, I want to smash all the other races and conquer the planet, finish the campaign, whatever. But if I have to keep switching between these races, fighting against the people I've previously played as and fighting against the heroes I've previously played as, it's just disconnecting me from the story, from the campaign. I'm not getting the full story of what each race is sort of going through. It's like a really condensed version. I don't want to play a mission and absolutely smash the Eldar as the Space Marines, and then play as the Eldar and try to smash the Space Marines back. Just let me play as the Space Marine so I can smash everyone, or play as the Orc so I can crump everyone. What this also leads to throughout the campaign is, because you keep switching between the races and they're all in the same locations, while you're not playing on the exact same maps, they are in the same areas like all the time, so each mission really looks too familiar to the previous one you've just played. There's not enough switching around like different biomes and different locations. It's just too familiar, or it's like you're treading over ground you've already gone over. And with the gameplay, I mean, you can see straight away that the hero characters really stand out. If we look at Gabriel Angelos, who is the chapter master for the Blood Ravens, the Space Marines who play, he is a Space Marine. He's not like a Primarch, he's not like a super huge guy. He is just a Space Marine, but you can see he's a lot larger than the other Space Marines. He's like twice the size of them. And you can say they're doing this so your hero characters are more easily identifiable. You can find them in the battle a lot easier. But when it comes to the other games in the series, I don't think anyone had that problem at all. While the heroes or the elite characters in the previous games were heroes or elites, they were like the same size as whatever they should be in relation to other characters in their race. And you didn't have a problem finding them. It also looks a little bit comical, really, having Gabriel Angelos standing like completely towering over other Space Marines when he is just a Space Marine. And the gameplay itself really does focus on these hero characters. They have a ton of health, they do loads of damage, and they have abilities that can, again, do tons of damage. While named characters or hero characters on the tabletop version are really strong, they're not that strong. Even when you finish a mission, you get this XP screen for the elites or the heroes that you've controlled in that mission. But this XP screen for the campaign actually serves no purpose because your characters cannot level up, and the experience they've gained resets after every mission. So it's a pointless screen. So I don't even know why it's there. I was thinking that you could level them up, make them a little bit stronger, get some new abilities, but no, it just does nothing for the campaign. Now, after mission 5 in the campaign, I'm already bored of it. If I wasn't making a video on the game, I would have stopped playing the campaign there, because I'm not invested in what's going on at all, because there's 3 races and you're switching between the races. Even though it's only mission 5, it's still right at the beginning of each race's like journey, I guess you could say. The Space Marines have just been defending, the Orcs have just been infighting between themselves, and the Eldar are just doing Eldar shit. If the campaign had focused solely on one race, after 5 missions, the story would have progressed enough and you would have been able to get invested in the characters and what's going on a little bit more. But at least for me, I'm just not invested in this at all. One thing you'll notice as you play the campaign, if you decide to play the campaign, is that a lot of the missions, or pretty much all the missions, are like corridors. Even if the mission is in a forest, the layout is just corridors. There's no wide open maps. It's all just trying to funnel you down different pathways instead of having like a big wide open battle. The gameplay compared to the previous Dawn of War titles as well seems a bit simplified. I remember in Dawn of War 2, they took a lot of inspiration from Company Heroes, and you could put your people behind walls for cover and stuff like that. It made it feel almost like a little bit more tactical. Now, in Dawn of War 3, the only bit of cover you have are these little circle areas where you put units inside them, and they pretty much have to capture them, and then they generate this bubble which gives them cover. There's no other bits of cover around the map. It feels very mobile game-like to have something like that really in the game, instead of a lot of different natural pieces of cover throughout the terrain you can use. It's just go here and you'll generate cover. There's also invisibility areas that completely stealth your units, such as tall grass, all these other weird fields, and it does hide everything. Even helicopters that go into tall grass, they get hidden. Now, up until mission 11, none of the missions have really stood out as great missions or really bad ones, but I am giving a special mention to mission 11, which you play as the Eldar, and it's one of the worst RTS missions I've ever played. The setup for this is you get a few units, and pretty much you have to escape from the area you're in. You have to fight through 2 massive armies that are fighting each other and trying to fight yourself. The enemy armies just keep constantly respawning. You get no fresh units, and the only way you can heal is with pickups. So to finish this mission, I just decided to run past everything. There's no secret way to sort of stealth past everything. I decided just to run. I lost a few units, but I got to the end, finished the mission, and yeah, it was a horrible mission. There may have been some other way to play that mission which I missed out on, but for me, it was awful, and it deserves a mention just to say how bad it was. And when you get later onto the game, I did mention this a little bit earlier, but a lot of the missions, they start to feel the same because you are pretty much all on the same location, the same area, and these areas are using all the same art assets, so it feels like you are treading over already treaded on ground. I said it earlier, but you can see here I'm playing different factions, and these are different missions, but it's just the same area. And that's because we're playing 3 races in one campaign instead of just completely separate campaigns. I mean, at the end of this, one race really has got to be the overall winner, right? You can't really have these 3 races fighting each other and have them all win. That would be like stupid, really. And it was at this point as well where I was starting to notice that for some reason on my resource generation, I was getting big negatives, and the game tells you you're getting a negative impact, but not what's causing it. But why would they even negatively impact you? I don't get it at all. And the game relies too much on resource pickups. As you go through each level, you'll find just bits of resources, like pickups around that you can just go in and pick up a few hundred power or the other resource one, instead of really relying on normal resource generation. And the only reason I can think of this is that the devs probably realized that the maps they've made have been badly made. There's not enough capture points to generate resources for you, so they've got to dot around all these resource pickups instead. I also need to mention that the last mission of the campaign is extremely bad. So with an RTS, and like you've done with pretty much every mission in this, you have a base, you build up your base, you build up your army, you go do the objective, which could be capturing a certain area, clearing out the enemy, destroy the enemy base, whatever. But in the last mission, you control each hero from the 3 races, and that's it. And just having this final mission controlling heroes and that's it really shows what kind of game they really wanted. Instead of focusing on the strategy of controlling your entire army, it's here's your heroes, fight this hero battle. It just doesn't feel like it ties into the game's mechanics at all, and everything you've played through, everything you've learned through the campaign gets thrown out the window for this 1v3 battle. It's not good, it's not enjoyable, and yeah, it's a big misstep. The ending cinematic as well is just really bad, and it feels really lazy like all the other cinematics in this game. Pretty much the ending cinematic is the 3 hero characters saying, "We win, see you later guys," and you get a Necron tease. After looking at the credits for this, you see that the guys who made this awesome announcement trailer are the guys that made all the in-game cinematics, and all the in-game cinematics are just still images. It's such a letdown to be teased with that announcement trailer, and then, yeah, here's just some pictures. Just, nah, mate. So overall, for me, the campaign was really boring. I think the 3 factions tied in one campaign, for me, doesn't work. The locations are used too much. It's really repetitive because you're chasing like another faction down and you just have to keep going through the same areas. The story is bad, and yeah, it's not a good campaign. But when it comes to RTS games and their longevity, it's not the campaign that does it, it's the multiplayer. But I wanted to play the campaign first because I really see campaigns as like training for the multiplayer portion, because you play against the AI, you can gradually get used to using the game's mechanics, gradually introduced to stronger and stronger forces and research upgrades and stuff like that throughout the campaign. Instead of just diving into multiplayer and bang, here's everything, go for it, you can get used to everything at a more gentler pace so it can sink in a bit more, and there's not too much pressure on you to learn everything quickly. But one thing I did before I played the campaign is I did play through the tutorials, but I did see there is a multiplayer tutorial which I didn't play until I finished the campaign, because it stood out that there was a multiplayer tutorial. Like, why is there one? Surely multiplayer is about just smashing the enemy or maybe getting some victory points or something. Why would there be a separate multiplayer tutorial unless they're introducing a lot of separate mechanics that aren't in the campaign? Destroy the shield generators, destroy the turret, destroy the power core, and win. So I remember reading lots of MOBA comparisons to Dawn of War 3 when it launched, and yeah, I really see it. Not just with the emphasis on elite characters and their abilities and how strong they are, but yeah, the multiplayer mode. It's a MOBA. Now, one thing I do like about the Dawn of War series is that each game isn't just, the first one, but with better graphics and some extra stuff. They do slightly change how the game plays in each game, but with Dawn of War 3, putting it more towards like a MOBA, yeah, it's a complete misstep. And I don't think RTS players want a MOBA. If they want a MOBA, they'll play a MOBA. If they want an RTS, they'll play an RTS. And when this game launched, it only launched with this power core mode. And I think that would have put off like the hardcore multiplayer player base, because they don't want this MOBA game. They want a more traditional RTS. They did add in a more traditional RTS mode called Annihilation in June, but if we look at the player numbers, in April when the game launched, it had a peak player count of 25.5 thousand, and in June, the peak player count was 2.3 thousand. That's a drop of just over 90% of your player base in 2 months. What a disaster. And in February 2018, so the game launched in April 2017, it was announced that development for the game had stopped. There'd be no more patches, no expansions, no DLC. Relic Entertainment pretty much said that it wasn't worth developing the game anymore because there just wasn't the players. In February 2018, it had a peak player count of 1,094, and it stayed about that same level until May, where it suddenly dropped from 1,000 to a peak player count of 361, but I'm not sure why. So let's compare it to the first two Dawn of War games. Dawn of War 1 launched in 2004, and its last expansion was in 2008, and I think its last actual patch was towards the end of 2008 as well. There was a patch in 2014, 2015, but that was server related because a lot of the back-end server stuff had changed. It wasn't like game related stuff. That's 4 years of support for the first game. And back then, we didn't have like Steam charts and stuff like that. It was physical copies that were being sold. So it may have been more difficult to accurately track how many people were playing daily. Dawn of War 2 launched in February 2009, and its last expansion was March 2011, and its last patch was 2015. Looking at some of the reviews on the Steam store, and yeah, you can see that some people don't like how the gameplay has been simplified, or they've taken too much inspiration from MOBAs. And yeah, I mean, they have taken inspiration from MOBAs, and really the best Dawn of War games are the previous ones. It's a real shame that they went this direction with Dawn of War 3 and pretty much killed any future prospects for the series. But do I think there should be a Dawn of War 4? I mean, yeah, it's been a good few years since Dawn of War 3. Hopefully Relic Entertainment have learnt a lot from making Dawn of War 3 and going in the direction that they went. And Warhammer, it's getting more and more popular. There's the TV series that's currently trying to be worked out between Amazon and Games Workshop with Henry Cavill involved. 10th edition has just launched for tabletop, and there's more and more games coming out. We got Space Marine 2 coming out soon, Rogue Trader coming out soon, and there's loads of other 40k and Age of Sigmar and other games based on other Games Workshop properties set in Warhammer that are being released all the time. I'd be well up for a new Dawn of War, definitely. So that's been my thoughts on Dawn of War 3. If you like the video, please give it a like. Put a comment down below what you think about Dawn of War and the series and what they should do going forward. If you didn't like the video, thank you for watching to the end. Feel free to leave a comment about why you didn't like the video. And if you're interested in any Warhammer gaming content from any Warhammer franchise, then subscribe to the channel because I will be covering any and all games. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.